Hey, what is up guys? It's your boy Speed here, and today we're going to be watching a Storm Spirit game that TOPSON just played. Very excited, and the reason why I'm excited to do this is I genuinely think Storm Spirit is one of the best heroes in Dota. This hero was recently buffed, and honestly, with a lot of other popular mid laners getting nerfed, I feel like Storm Spirit's just in a good spot right now. In fact, so much so, where I think this hero will actually be mildly contested at TI. I really do believe it's underrated. However, it's a difficult hero in pubs, so if you're gonna play it, make sure you either take it to a bot lobby beforehand or you spam it for at least 5 to 10 games before giving up. But without further ado, let's get into the starting item build. By the way guys, if you want to become absolutely broken, well, what you need to do is sign up to the GameLeap website down below right now. The reason why you should do that is because every single day we post a new video there. Content that you simply just will never get on YouTube, we post every single day to the website. It's really top tier stuff. I'm very proud of what I make over there. We also have other creators, many of my great friends who are top tier Dota players, creating guides about different heroes, different roles, different items, skill builds, talent builds, everything you need to know to get to the next rank. So if you feel a little bit lost, you're a little bit stuck, click the link down below. I'll see you guys there. And now let's get into the video. So for the starting items, you can go what TOPSON goes every single game. Static Remnant at level 1, 3 branches of Fairy Fire and Tangos. Some people even skip the Fairy Fire if the matchup is particularly difficult. Wind Ranger is not that bad. It's not great, but it's not that bad. So he greeds a little bit, but not too much. And the idea here is you just want to try to get your bottle before the 2-minute mark or around the 2-minute mark so that you can obviously get the water runes with your bottle. And this is the whole gist behind Storm Spirit, okay guys? This hero is a 6 armor ranged hero with low movement speed. So basically, all Storm is good for is tanking the occasional auto attack, because he has 6 armor, and securing creeps. Okay, that's like generally all you do in the lane. Can you go for kills? Yes. You'll see people get solo kills around level 3, right? Almost only at level 3 when you get the value point in Vortex. But for the most part, this hero is just looking to secure creeps, and let's talk about how to do that. Okay, so the main gist behind securing creeps is you want to use Static Remnant to get multiple creeps. In the early waves, you can use it for only 1, so don't be afraid to do that, especially if the matchup is very difficult. For instance, it's a Viper. Don't be afraid to use Static Remnant for a melee creep, or especially a range creep if it comes up. On the side note of that though, you'll see in this clip here that there are 2 creeps. What should you see coming here, okay? What's the big play coming here for TOPSON in terms of using Remnant? What it is prepping this creep, so actually dropping this creep's HP by a little bit, and then this will die to tower, and then he can Remnant and secure them both while retreating, avoiding auto attacks from Wind Ranger. So that's exactly what he's going to do. He preps this creep, hits it again actually, and then goes for the Q. Beautifully done, gets both of the CS, and you have to have that awareness as Storm Spirit, otherwise you get punished very hard when you're retreating, because you're a 285 movement speed hero, and it's obviously just a great way to get last hits. So beautifully done, keep that in mind for your games, and on top of that, don't be afraid to just secure range creeps with the Q. Now skipping ahead a little bit, I want to show the next major clip. Outside of this clip that I'm about to show you, TOPSON is basically just playing mid like a TI winner, nothing too crazy. But the main thing to understand here is look at his regen, okay? The reason why he's so low right now is the Elder Titan on the enemy team contests his water room. In your average pub, you're gonna get a water room basically every single time. It's uncommon for them to be contested. Therefore, you won't exactly be in this scenario, but you should consider this. At any point in the lane, if you're low, you should just jungle his Storm and then go back to base. Now in this case, that's not exactly what he does, and we'll talk about it. What he does here is around the bounty rune timer, he actually shifts away from the mid lane. Obviously, he has no resources, does not want to feed away a kill. Shifts over to the mid camp, cleans that up, and then is actually going to go back mid. The reason why he does this is he actually puts a major priority, just in general, but throughout this lane, on just getting as many creeps as possible. On top of that, he even shipped out a salve. This was really interesting to me. I think the main reason why he shipped the salve, besides the fact that he was just low on HP, is largely because he's also buying a soul ring. Typically on Storm Spirit, you're going to rely on bottle to heal you up, right? That's why you go Tangos, 3 branches, and then you go for the runes. That's kind of the idea. But when you're going Soul Ring Storm, which is the build we're going to be talking about here, buying a salve when you're low is very valuable because you turn that HP into mana. Okay, so the main thing I want to talk about in this game is actually how to make a comeback as Storm Spirit, and this is a perfect game for it because he's 3k behind right now. So let's go over these advanced ideas to make sure that we just cover what he does to recover in this game. And the first thing to note is that when you're jungling, right, and you go this Soul Ring build, you have to copy what he does as follows. You go to Strength Treads, you then pop your Soul Ring, then you go to Int. Okay, I know this is pretty basic for a lot of players, but a lot of people don't know to do this. The reason why you pop your Soul Ring on Strength is because it takes away then the least amount of HP. Then you want to switch to Int, and you get the most mana. That is why going Treads with Soul Ring is actually very important. Going Treads without Soul Ring is kind of questionable because of this reason. You get a lot of value out of this. And that's exactly what he does. On top of that, note how he maxes the Q, okay? The reason why you max the Q with the Soul Ring build is because the Q is the better farming ability, right? It's more expensive in mana, obviously, than skilling Overload, because Overload doesn't cost mana, but it does more damage, right? It's quite a bit more damage. On top of that, it's 7.30. It was actually buffed at max level, so it's a better max level spell now, so maxing it is particularly valuable, especially with the Soul Ring build. And so this is the gist here. You max the Q, and then you typically farm with it, right? This is the first thing, because a lot of people are like, gank, gank, gank. The main time I want you guys to gank in your pubs is if you get a rune. If you get a rune, you can gank, right? If you get an Arcane rune, you can gank. If you get a DD, haste, gank, regen, you can even gank. Other than that, generally don't gank unless they are taking your tier 2 tower. Next up, let's talk about why I love this build so much and why I actually think it's very good on Storm. It also allows you to fight in the early game. Even though, of course, you're not skilling the Overload, it's still a good build for fighting in the early game, and here's why. The main reason why is because of the HP. Soul Ring gives you 120 HP and 2 armor. Pretty good, right? Then if you go to Strength Treads, the combination between the Soul Ring and the Strength Treads gives you 320 HP. That's massive in the early game. Combine that with a wand and a neutral item, and all of a sudden you're a 1400 HP hero 11 minutes into the game, and we can see that come into play here. He gets gone on and simply is just fine. In fact, he was more than fine. Even if I think Pango hit the chain stun, I think he still would have been fine. Now, let's go over how to play Storm and just how to zip in general. So the first thing to note about Storm is typically when you go in, you're looking for a +1 target. You almost never want to zip on someone alone. So in this clip here, the reason why the Elder Titan is a particularly good target is the Earthshaker was heading over to the area, so they have a much higher chance of getting some sort of a chain stun. On the note of getting a chain stun, when you go in as Storm Spirit, typically what you do is you try to zip in front of them, right? That's not what happens here, but typically you try to zip on front of them, then you want to Q. The only reason why he didn't Q here is because I think he was way more focused on just dodging Shackle Shot, which funny enough, he actually ended up doing. But typically what the general combo is you zip on top of them, you auto attack when you're zipping. Yes, guys, you can auto attack mid-zip. A lot of people don't realize this. You can throw out the auto, yes, when you're in the air. So click on them. When you zip, click on them. We'll see it here, right? So he zips in and he clicks on the ET. That throws the auto. That is the Overload proccing. So he threw the auto out, right? Very well done. Gets the extra damage, and that Overload slow when you zip in is actually crucial. Because if he was to Remnant, it would miss if he didn't Overload slow. Obviously, Shaker stun would guarantee it as well, but you get the point. If there isn't a follow-up stun, then the Overload actually sets up for the Remnant. And yeah, he's just playing around the fights, paying attention to his disables. Really nice kiting here. Good recognition of the key target, and the Wind Ranger focuses her over the Elder Titan, and it ends up being an incredibly good fight considering they were 4k behind. All of a sudden, they shoot up to only 1k behind. And on top of that, you have to note that they're against an Alchemist, so this game is practically even after one good engagement. And yeah, that's largely because he was able to avoid the Shackle Shot. He's really tanky, so he basically tanked the gank to a large extent and had a good target priority. After that though, after the gank ends, what you want to do is jungle back to base. Jungle back to base, right? So how do you do that? Well, you take the camp that is furthest away from your base and go to the camps that are then closest to your base. Simple, yeah, it's simple, but you just gotta do it. Just remember to do this, guys. It's going to get you an insane amount of farm and impact, because what a lot of people do is they try to greed it out. They're going to ship a Clary and a Salve, and what ends up happening is you crush your net worth, and on top of that, you don't even get full mana. And so instead, he can just head back to mana, use the Soul Ring to zip over the hill, and get back to base. On top of that, a really nice thing about going back to base is it gives you time to think. Like, people don't realize this. Going back to base is so valuable because it just gives TOPSON a little bit of time to look at the map here. You can see he's looking through all his decisions, sees 2 heroes top, 1 hero mid, the Alk bottom, and now he's going to look for the kill as a result. So I just love this play so much, even though they don't end up getting the kill into the Alk. And in fact, that was kind of just I don't feel like that works even if it hits the zip, but I like the idea. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about is long zipping. Coming up here, we're going to see the perfect example of when to long zip. 9 times out of 10, guys, you don't want to long zip early game, okay? Specifically early game. Mid to late game, when you have like 2k mana, it's a lot more reasonable because it will only drain like half your mana to zip pretty far. But early game, people long zip, like when they have like 800 mana or like 1200 mana, they run out of mana and then they're just dead in the fight. Just to jump someone. Like, not even to like kill them with the zip. Just to get on top of them. And like, that's a mega grief. That's the first thing I want to know. The second thing is you only typically want to long zip either for a pickoff that won't turn into a team fight, so you can just disengage when you have no mana, or in a team fight, it's got to be a high priority kill, right? So the zip, at least have level 2 zip most of the time. Level 1 zip is just slow. Compared to level 2 zip, you'll notice the difference. It's quite big. And so on that note, like the main targets you would only want to long zip for this game is the cores, really. The main one being the Wind Ranger, right? She's a squishy hero that dies to magic damage. Pango's not bad as well. Like, Alk could be okay if there was like major follow-up, but usually you wouldn't want to do that. But in this clip here, you're going to see the Wind Ranger gets roared. That is a very reasonable time to long zip. It's the main key target. It doesn't put him wildly out of position, right? He's close to his team. It's not the best place, but it keeps him relatively in position. It's a high priority target, and he now hits the Wind, and she explodes. So that is the time. After that, then you need to bottle up and reset, because you are going to be low on mana. So just be very, very careful about making that type of play. It has to be guaranteed. A lot of people do that stuff just randomly. Please don't do that. You're going to grief. All right, the next thing I want to talk about in team fights is paying attention to your stuns. Now, I know we kind of just talked about that. I get it. All right, that was kind of the last point as well. But the thing is, like, in general, you want to pay attention to your stuns. Like, a lot of people just don't get this. They try to do everything alone. You can play that way if you have Orchid, right? If you have Orchid, then you go for a lot of solo kills. That's not the build we're looking at today, okay? We're looking at more of like a team fight, follow-up, frontliner storm, like that type of thing, right? You're more so following up the Sables. So this build is particularly good when the enemy team is really tanky and your team has a lot of stuns. So that's kind of what we're seeing here. And just who are his initiators, guys? The funny thing is, like, his entire team is technically initiators. They're all stunning heroes. So he can really jump anyone that his team jumps. But in general, you would have to identify, you know, your stunner. And on top of that, you want to pay attention to the person that's furthest up. Okay, that's always the big thing. Pay attention to the person who's furthest up. Right here, it's the Beast, so he's watching Beast. Right? Then he's still kind of watching the area. Next up, who's the closest? It's Earthshaker. And funny enough, woo! Oh my god. That is Sumail hitting the biggest Echo Slam of his life. Oh my god. That was pretty insane. But yeah, just a little bit of follow-up onto the Echo Slam, right? Zip in, overload hit with the Q into a vortex onto the Wind. Beautifully done. Now, on the note of being a frontliner, I would like to say that if you go this item build and you get a neutral item like the Essence Ring, or really anyone that gives you HP, but Essence Ring being the biggest one, you can just straight up go in first. Like, I think a lot of people have the wrong idea about Storm, especially with how Storm has evolved as a hero and how Dota has evolved as a game. But Storm doesn't have to, like, solo carry anymore. In fact, like, a lot of the time he just can't. And so what you do instead is you actually can play around your hero's HP. Like, Bloodstone gives a stupid amount of health, right, considering the active. This gives health, Soul Ring gives health, Treads can give health, Wand gives health, and you have a health tower. So he has 2400 HP. And the thing about Storm, what's really interesting about Storm is this should be a little bit fascinating even to you guys. Storm Spirit is one of the best baiting heroes in Dota. Think about it, right? Really think about it here. The reason why Storm is one of the best baiting heroes in Dota is because he's tanky, he's deceptively tanky. People usually think he's not tanky, so they jump him, and it's Storm Spirit. People always will jump Storm if they see Storm because it's ingrained into every Dota player's head. If you can catch Storm, if you can catch Tinker, if you can catch one of these mobile heroes, you catch them. You cast your spells, you commit on them. You know what happens when you commit? You get baited. And, you know, even though this clip doesn't lead into a 5-man Echo Slam, you'll kind of get the point. He goes in first here, very clearly goes in first, commits in, Pango immediately does what? Pango rolls, Wind Ranger goes for the Shackle, so they both commit their stuns, not surprisingly, right? Not surprisingly. He gets mildly chain stunned, and honestly, in this clip, ET and Alk being dead is a good reason for him to do this. Please, don't dive a tier 3 like this, unless they have multiple heroes dead. Then maybe it's okay. I know people are going to see this clip and be like, TOPSON dove the high ground, so I can too. But that's not the case here. So obviously in this clip, it sets up for the Wind Ranger to get baited in, Sky to get baited in. Well, he went on Sky and Pango roll to be wasted. And yeah, he's just more than fine. He literally has, after the Bloodstone and Essence Ring pop, 4,000 HP total, especially with the wand and the bottle as well. Literally, he is a 4,000 HP hero. That's pretty freaking good. So keep that in mind in your pubs. When you go this Soul Ring, Wand, Bloodstone, Treads build, if your team is struggling to initiate, if your Juggernaut keeps dying before he can get Omni Slash off, or PA needs to see the backline, you can be the guy who does that. Don't get bursted instantly. That's not the point. You want to get off your Bloodstone and hopefully your Essence Ring if you can get one. Don't do that, but go somewhere in between. Upcoming here is going to be the second to last clip we talk about. This was just such an expertly played fight by TOPSON, like literally such a good fight. It clearly shows that he just understands the matchups in his job this game so well. He bought an Orchid. Now, let's talk about the enemy heroes, okay? So there's a couple of heroes he can jump. Number one, he can jump ET. ET does not have Lotus yet. He can't purchase Silence. Wind Ranger is BKB, so jumping a Wind pre-BKB is pretty questionable unless you know you can get Vortex off and it can be followed up. Jumping Elk is a horrible idea unless it's the bait, which we'll get into in a second. And jumping Pango, he has a Yules and an Essence Ring. That's not the best target. It can, once again, if it can bait out the Yules and then be followed up, maybe that's an option. But as you'll notice, his main target is either going to be the Skywrath Mage, who can't purge anything and has no defensive items, and the ET. So let's look at this fight and see what he does. And I know this is, once again, kind of standard Storm, but look at what he does here. Goes on the Elk. Okay? Goes on the Elk. This seems like a theoretically stupid play. In fact, if I was playing this game, I don't think I even would have zipped on this Alchemist, because I would have been like, yep, follow-up is going to come in. Now, first things first, I think he just assumed the Alch was alone, but once he saw this Wind Ranger, he quickly realized, oh, he's not alone, and disengaged. Now, zipping on the Alch there can do exactly what you saw, though. It can bait out the rotations. You can zip on Alch and immediately zip to the side or zip out the way. What does he do then? He doesn't panic, because he has this Illusion Rune, so Sky can't solo kill him. In fact, he just can't get silenced, so he plays very patient. He waits, and he's looking actually at the minimap. Yes, he's looking at the minimap. I always tell you guys this. Pros look at the minimap in team fights. When they're not directly fighting the person on their screen, they're not looking at their screen, they're looking at the minimap, because the screen is limited. The minimap is not limited. So look, this is what's so impressive about these players. He gets a brief glimpse of Sky right there. Gets a brief glimpse of the Sky. Then he gets a much broader glimpse here and immediately realizes, okay, I can zip on this guy. Gets the easy solo kill onto the Skywrath Mage. Well done, right? Good stuff. After that, he's gonna kite out, right? Just to make sure he doesn't get bashed up by Elk. Wait, play the side, looking for a good target to jump, right? Just waiting for a good target to jump. And you might be like, oh, speed, but what about the whole baiting thing? Thing is, you only want to bait when your team can follow it up. No blink, this guy's getting gone on. I think this guy roared already. So, like, it's not good for him to bait in this situation. The whole enemy team is alive because of buybacks. You don't bait here, right? You're just going to die. You're going to get chain stun with no follow-up. But he has enough patience to wait, go on to the Wind Ranger. His Orchid just comes up. Unfortunately, he couldn't get it off in time, but then he kites out, waits for the follow-up, kites back in on the follow-up. Has a little bit of patience here. I think he was a little bit concerned about getting silenced from Sky, but quickly realizes, okay, the stuns are coming out. I'm totally fine to go back in here. Eventually gets the Alchemist, cleaning him up with the zip through, and almost finds Sky as well. So that was just such a beautiful fight, clearly understanding target priority, and most importantly, he understood his teammates' capability to re-engage. I don't think people understand that. That's why, like, pros are so good, guys. Like, they basically have just intuition on when their team can go in. It's not perfect, but it's pretty freaking good. And most people just don't have that. The amount of people that would have zipped in early onto the ET, or right earlier onto the fight when he went onto Skywrath and when ET was in the middle, or especially they would have zipped in when Tiny was getting gone on. That would have been the main one, and no follow-up would have came, and they would have just gotten chain stun. But you know, that's the thing. If you have to know like your target, and then you have to know when you can go on your target, because people, a lot of time, people just feed because they see the person they want to go on. They're like, oh, Skywrath, ET, and then they just kill themselves, and that's not so good. And to end off the video, we're going to talk about how not to play Storm Spirit. TOPSON goes in. By the way, Storm is one of the best level 25 talents in the game. Overload attack bounce. This talent is nutty. Nutty. It makes every single auto attack have the chance to do 300 AoE damage. Every auto attack. right? That obviously you have overload on, which you can have basically every auto attack with overload on, so it's a stupid amount of damage. But yeah, this is what you don't really want to do. Blind zipping. Clearly the idea here was to burn Aegis, but unfortunately Elder Titan hit him for 400 damage there, causing his Aegis to disappear, and then he had no BKB and no Aegis, and it's obviously not very good because then you get stunned, and you get stunned again eventually as he goes back in onto the backline. Unfortunately, the Pango respawn. Oh god. Yeah, I mean, that's OG in a nutshell. But nonetheless, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Hope you have some better ideas about Storm Spirit now. Main thing, in the early game, hit your timings, right? Hit your timings. Big one is the Kaya. When you get the Kaya, the hero transforms into a fighting machine. In teamfights, pay attention to your disables. Don't burn your mana long zipping unless you make sure you have that follow-up disable. That you know, the hero that's going to make sure that the long zip actually connects. And yeah, in general, don't be afraid to be the frontliner. Just make sure that the follow-up's there. Okay, that's the big thing. I don't want people to misconstrue my clip of Storm's supposed to just go in and die with 3/4 of his mana remaining. But if you use all of your mana, kill someone, and then get gone on a die, but your whole team cleans up, that's pretty good. And the build is actually very good at doing this. So nonetheless, thank you guys so much for watching. It's been a real pleasure, and I'm out. Peace!
And that's all, but remember, before you leave, come on, before you tune out, subscribe to the GameLeap website where we are going to help you get to the next rank. If you're stuck, click the link down below, and I'm out. Peace!